Here is everything you need to know to get started with Marvelous Designer. But first, this video is sponsored by Marvelous Designer. This will be a part 2 video series. In this part, I will show you everything related to making the design. In the part 2, I will show you how to pose, how to animate, and basically bring the design to life using Marvelous Designer, of course. Yes, the pattern making fundamentals. Well, it's really crucial to understand just a little bit of pattern making to make any dress. So let's find out how to make a simple pattern in Marvelous Designer from scratch. So why pattern making? Having a bit of pattern making knowledge will significantly improve your garment making skill. Later in this video, you will know how easy it is to modify a garment from the basic pattern in Marvelous Designer. So let's open Marvelous Designer and do the magic. Alright, this is the interface of Marvelous Designer. This window is a 3D window where you can see the pattern in 3 dimension. And this is 2D window where you make the pattern. Now let's first go to library, and by default you will get a bunch of avatars, which means characters. So double click on the avatar. I'm gonna choose female version tool. You can choose anything you want. And then I'm gonna double click on fv2 underscore Mia to load this avatar. Well, first thing, double click the avatar to select everything and make sure the skin offset is below 1. I personally keep it 0mm. The skin offset is actually an invisible bubbles between the garment and the avatar, so there is no clipping issue, but 3 is a little bit excess. I keep it 0. Alright, another thing, in the garment section you can find various type of garments, and Marvelous Designer actually has the base form, which just double click and it will load automatically. But in this video, I will show you how to make this basic t-shirt pattern from scratch. So just select this by left click and drag and delete it. I'm going to make it from scratch. You can click this arrow to minimize the library tab. Alright, I'm going to start with this rectangle tool, and I'm going to make a rectangle like this. Now I'm going to dock this window here. This is basically the most important tools in Marvelous Designer while making in 2D pattern. So whenever I select any tools from this palette, you can immediately see what tool I'm using, and that's super helpful. The first tool I'm going to be using, which is add point and split line tool. I hope you can see it. And I'm going to add a point here and here. This tool basically lets you add points, and these are points. Now I'm going to select this with the edit pattern tool. Again, you can see it here, the selected tools. And I'm going to drag it down while holding shift, and this is going to be the neck hole, and this is going to be the armhole. If you have ever seen a basic pattern, you see that neck hole is smaller than armhole. So I'm going to select that and drag it down. And if you drag down while holding shift, it will be perfectly straight. And I'm going to select this edit curve point tool here, and I'm going to select and drag it to make a curve. And same thing here as well. As you can see, our shoulder is not straight, so I'm going to make this line a bit rampy like that. And I'm going to place it here and make it a bit smaller and fix this just a bit. Now select this, Ctrl C and Ctrl V, copy and paste, and move it this side. This is going to be the back of the pattern. Now I'm going to select that, right click on the 3D window and flip the normal. So the normal is flipped, and why I did that is very important. As you can see, every piece of pattern has 2 faces. This is the front face and this is the back face. The back face always a bit darker, And this is basically normals. If you're a 3D artist, you know what normal is. You want this dark side facing to avatar. If I don't flip the normal and if I adjust the location here, as you can see, the darker side is outside, which is not ideal. So right click and flip normal like that. I generally stick with the thick textured surface, so you cannot see the flipped normal side, which is amazing. But you know what? Let's stick with textured surface. I'm gonna select both. Then right click, symmetric pattern with sewing. The shortcut of this is Control D, and I'm gonna place it here. Adjust it just a bit, and then I'm gonna sew it. And you can find various sewing tools just here, and I'm gonna also dock it here so you can see what sewing I'm using. The obvious sewing I'm gonna be using here is segment sewing, and I'm gonna segment sew from here to here. As you can see in the 3D window, like that, the sewing threads are now straight. For some reason, if this is not straight, if this looks like that, never make this. If your sewing threads are looking like that, so what you want to do is select edit sewing, then select that sewing, right click and reverse sewing. Bam. You can also sew in the 3D window. So I'm going to sew front and also back. And now I'm not going to sew the side seam right now. As you can see, the side seams are clipping with the hands. So I'm going to first drape it by pressing space, and then I'm going to sew it here. So now it's not clipping. All right now the t-shirt block is way too big. So I'm going to select everything with this transform pattern tool, double click in the middle to activate the pivot, and you know it's activated because these points are orange. Now I'm going to select and click and drag like this, and I'm going to make it not so baggy. The first noticeable issue that I'm facing is the neckline. So I'm going to select that, and here's a cool trick that I always use. Select this segment with, of course, edit pattern tool, right click, match up to start. So you can now select these two lines together and move them together. It's really efficient. I'm going to select that and move that like that to adjust the neck, and this for this armhole like that. And to go back to the previous state, just select that and that, right click, match up to start. Easy. The armhole currently is way too big, so I'm going to select that, these points, and drag it up while holding shift, and I'm gonna smooth that curve with the edit curve point to make it kind of round, something like that. Looks pretty nice already. All right, if you can see the back neckline, which is not pretty amazing, so I'm going to select that and move it up, and with the edit curve point, I'm going to edit the curvature like that, and I might want to add another curve to make it slight nice shape like that. And I'm gonna select this line and move it just there to make it a bit tighter, not pretty much though. All right, now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select these lines and move it up to the waistline, and this area is supposed to be the waistline, so I'm gonna kind of go there. And now I'm gonna select this to see where it is. This is currently here, and I'm gonna select the edit curve point and add a curve like that. Maybe this one goes there like that, just a bit. Your armhole should be nice, otherwise the sleeve will not look very amazing. So always pay extra attention to armhole. Now, as you can see, this is perfectly fine for a t-shirt pattern, but I'm gonna fit this pattern to the waist area. And now I'm going to introduce a new concept, which is dirt. Well, this is not new, but if you're a beginner, this is new for you. Dirt actually will help you to reduce unnecessary fabric and fit it on your avatar. And how to make it? It's really easy. As you can see, this area has a bit of unwanted fabric, which I don't want. But first, let's select this with the transform point / segment tool. Double click in the middle to activate the pivot, drag it like that. So it's gonna be a bit of like that. Now I'm going to select here to see where it is. I'm going to add a point here, and I'm going to also add a point in between this point. So I'm going to hover over here. Instead of left click, I'm going to right click and here uniform split. So it will add a point just in the middle and hit OK. And now I'm going to find where the bust point is, which is the most elevated point of the female body, which is supposed to be here. And I'll select this with edit pattern, and I'm going to drag it towards that, probably there. Never touch these points, just make sure there's enough space. I'm going to make it a bit wider and select both, make it straighter in the 3D window and sew it like that. Oops, sew it like that. And let's make it a bit narrower. This arm and this line should be same. Like this is 126, this is 127. I'm gonna make it a bit there so it's kind of same. And I want to make this like that. Now, one thing I noticed, this is the side seam, which is like this, and this shouldn't be like that. It should be straight. So what you can do is you can select these 2 points and drag it like that. So it's just straight this out. Because of the bust area, this area, the fabric, it's a lot. But here, this is kind of flat. The rest of the fabric is just stays there. So as you can see, this area is a lot downish than this area. And if you want to match this exactly straight, I have an amazing tip, which is basically to use this circumferences measure and select just around this area. So it just cuts straight in the 3D window, and that's going to be super helpful. I'm going to select this edit measure tool, then right click on this line and trace as internal line. So I have an internal line traced on my pattern. And then I'm going to select all the internal line. Well, it creates double internal lines because it has symmetric. So be aware of that. So just delete one internal line and it will be fine. Select these internal lines, right click and cut. And then you can just delete. And you have this amazing straight pattern, which is an amazing tip. You always use this to create a straight line. Yeah. Now let's fix the neckline. I don't want this curvier neckline. I want something different. So I'm going to select this line with edit pattern tool, right click, delete all curves. And then I'm going to add a point around here and just drag this point like that. And again, the same tip or trick, select that, right click, match up to start, and I'm going to just modify that. Now you can see just a little glimpse that from the basic shape, I can make any kind of garments. And later in this video, you will see more. I'm going to drag this down like that. So have kind of like this neckline, which is pretty nice. Again, right click, match up to start. And from this, I'm going to drag it down to make something like this. Now let's make the sleeve. the most important thing. Of course, sleeves are a bit tricky to make. Yeah, it's a bit tricky, but it's not that tricky. Just add a rectangle like that and add a point right about in the middle. Then drag this line like that. Don't make it exactly straight, but just a bit of in the left side. Right click, convert to curve point, and add curve to make a basic sleeve pattern. Like that. Now I'm using free sewing, as you can see here. So from here, I'm going to hold shift from here and from here. Now as you can see, the sleeve pattern is way too small. So I'm going to make it big. And how do I know that? It's basically to measure this two same time, which is 418, and this line, which is 260, doesn't match. It should be 418. Yeah, guys, you can always measure this and then make it, but I kind of do the back approach. I make the pattern first and then measure it, because this is Marvelous Designer, because this is digital and this is the power, I guess. Now when it's matched, I'm going to select that and I'm going to go select this show arrangement point, and I'm going to arrange it right about here. And I'm going to unhide this arrangement point and simulate. And then I'm going to make it longer to make a full sleeve like that. You can also make half sleeve, so you have to just stop right about here, but I'm going to be making a long sleeve. Sleeves never go straight in the end. How you can slide these 2 points at the same time? There's a cool trick, which is select these 2 points with transform point tool, double click in the middle to activate the pivot and drag it. And you have to sew it from here to sew it here and simulate like that. You can also make it a bit more so it fits the wrist, and you can also curve this area, like this area, just a bit upward to have this excess fabric, to remove the excess fabric. And now the one sleeve is done, just Ctrl D to symmetric paste to the other side. It's that simple. I might want to make this a bit wider. So yeah, this is currently the basic t-shirt block, but now you can literally make anything from it. Like if you want to make a coat, you can make a coat. If you want to make a ruffle dress, you can make a ruffle dress. But now I'm going to add the skirt to the bottom, and it's actually going to be a one-piece dress, so the top and the bottom are sewn together. Now I'm going to select all of this, right click and freeze, and then I'm going to add an ellipse tool like that, and make sure the particle distance is 20 or something, because it will be faster to simulate. Single click and then rotate like that, like this, and put it right about here. I'm going to select this internal ellipse tool. I'm going to find the middle point. It will automatically snap. Single click, click on circumferences and maybe 200. Hit OK. Then right click and make a hole. If I find, convert to hole. And I'm going to select that with the transform point, double click in the middle and make it bigger or wider. Now see it carefully. I'm going to use free sew. I'm going to start from here, just go all the way like that. I'm going to hold shift, don't release shift, like that. Click, drag, click, click, like that, like that, like that, and like that. And it is sewn perfectly. If you didn't understand, go back and watch it again. Simulate. And I have an amazing looking skirt. Now let's select that outer part with the transform point. If you're selecting this with edit pattern, the gizmo is not here, but if you select this with transform point, you can see the gizmo. So this is an amazing tool. Double click to activate the pivot and drag it. It's completely your choice of how long the skirt you want. You can want long or short. I'm gonna keep it right about here, maybe a bit longer, like that. Again, I am emphasizing this word so much. You can create anything with this software. This is the magic of Marvelous Designer, honestly. You can create anything without like any cost of fabric or just, yeah. Now select everything, and I'm going to freeze everything, and I'm going to select only that, right click and unfreeze. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this down segments. Segment means lines, and I don't have to select here because this is symmetric. Then right click, offset as internal line, maybe 8 millimeter. Click on extend, hit OK. Select this 4 segments, select trace tool, right click, trace as a pattern. Again, do the same thing here, right click, trace as a pattern. Make sure you're selecting all these 4 lines, right click, trace as a pattern. This tool is super powerful. You can trace any kind of pattern from a pattern, if that makes any sense. Now segment so from here to here, top to top, bottom to bottom, like that. Whoops. Now select all of this, Control D to symmetric paste, and here's another super useful tool or feature. So select everything in the 3D window, right click on one of these, superimpose over, so they will be on top. They will be where I want them to be. Now segments are here, segments are here, segments are here, and segments are here. Make sure the sewing lines are not reversed. And then I'm going to select this and reduce the vertical distance to maybe 2 and collision thickness to 1 millimeter. And simulate so you can see a nice little finishing touch there. If I turn on this sew internal line, you can see it's amazing. Now if you want to turn off these lines, these are actually normal map. This doesn't impact on the 3D model. It's there for the visualization. Let's untick that. So 3D seam line, so it is just off, and which is amazing. All right, now you can see the power of Marvelous Designer. Now let's see how to make this simple garment detailed. The first thing, the most important thing you have to do is to reduce the vertical distance. But first, let's add a neck binding. How? Pretty simple. Select this neckline. You don't have to select that because, yep, this is symmetrical. Right click on one of this, offset as internal line, and 8 mm is perfect. Make sure it's extend. And I'm going to select trace tool, select these 4 lines, make sure these 4 lines are selected. Right click, trace as a pattern, and do the same thing here as well. So right click, trace as a pattern. Now segment so from here to here, and here, and also here. Select that, Control D to symmetric paste. Select all of this. In the 3D window, right click, superimpose over, the exact same thing, and make sure it's true, and collision thickness is 1. Let's sew it like that, sew it like that, and sew it like that. I know if you're a complete beginner, this might look a bit alien to you, but if you watch twice, it will be very helpful, and it is very easy. Now to make it a bit nicer, the neckline, I'm gonna select this lines and activate the elastic. but the strength should be below 5 or 5, but the ratio should be 99. And there will be a little bit elastic, you can see right away. So it just there holds the neckline, which is amazing. You can also help Marvelous Designer sometimes. That's how you can create an amazing looking, very simple but amazing looking outfit. All right, now here's a cool trick to make this skirt even amazing. So for that, I'm gonna freeze this, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select that, and with the transform point, and I'm gonna make it a bit wider so I have more gathering on this side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click. First of all, if I reduce the vertical distance of this pattern so much, because this is very big piece of pattern, it will slow your computer down drastically. Trust me. But I have a solution for it, which is to cut this pattern into some pieces. Let me show you how. Select that, right click, offset as internal line, maybe this time 50. Hit OK. So I will cut this line, and then again right click, internal line, this time maybe 150 or 200. Let's see, a bit lower, is also a bit lower, and then select both, right click, make sure it's cut and sew, not cut and sew. So they're cut and sewn together. Now select this top portion. Now this is technically very small piece of fabric. Now you can reduce the vertical distance, maybe 3. This is quite a medium piece. You can make it maybe 8. And this is a bit large, but the detail on this is not very significant, so you can keep it 12. And if you simulate, you can see all the details, nice details on the upper portion of the skirt. And if you want, you can increase this skirt quite a lot. The more you increase this inner circle, the more gathering you will see. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. Something like this. As you can see, the power of Marvelous Designer is coming together. You can also reduce this to maybe 2. Please don't overkill your computer, and simulate for a bit to see the amazing folds. So see how you can make a totally different dress from the t-shirt pattern. Now the possibilities is really limitless. You can create ruffles on the collar, you can create different neckline, you can also create some baggy tops from the basic pattern. So yeah, possibilities unlimited. So explore and have fun with Marvelous Designer. And thank you for watching part 1. Part 2 is coming soon, really soon. And thank you so much, Marvelous Designer, for sponsoring this video. Until then, happy simulating.